Happy Kaiju Live. I'm celebrating Godzilla with a month-long marathon of daily kaiju content, and we're continuing a deep dive into the classic 70s Marvel comic, Godzilla King of the Monsters. This has amazing art by Trimpe. This is expertly written by Doug Moench, who is one of my favorites, and this cover is so cool. Issue 15, Stampede, Godzilla versus some cowboys. What's going on? Let's dig into the book and find out. We gotta look at that cover in all its forms, right? Man, that is so cool looking. On the left, we have the original comic. On the right, we have the black and white Essentials volume. And in the center, we have the omnibus, which is what we're mainly going to be looking at. So, let's get to that first page because it is sick looking, I tell you what. This series always has the best opening pages. It's just such a great splash page to just hook you in and make you want to check out this book. And look at this with the Godzilla just peering over the mountain range, and he's just so larger than life. Long live the king, the caption says, and I agree thoroughly. As do we all here celebrating Kaiju Live. And then we turn the page and we get this. How cool is that? Over here we get a little bit of setup with these two cowboys talking, and we find out a little bit later that one of them is actually working with another rancher to actually rustle up and steal other people's cattle. So no good there. And of course the one who's the bad guy is the fella named Lefty. Like that ain't sinister. But look at this page. I don't know how they missed that or didn't hear it just by turning around the corner, but boom, he's so scary. In fact, we got to look at this page in the other formats too. I don't even know why I got my coffee. I got to move it again. Man, that is just so cool. I love how that looks in the black and white. If you haven't been following me all along, but I can't stop gushing about this black and white essential volume. I think Trimpe's artwork just looks phenomenal in this format, but I'm loving how it looks in this colored omnibus too. So very good. And that is just cool seeing Godzilla picking up all them dead cattle there and just looking at all the bones, and almost a little mournful, maybe projecting a bit, but so very cool. But let's keep going. We're only on page 3 of the comic? All right, turn the page. So we got them running off, freaking out about this whole situation, all the while still at Salt Lake City. We got Robert here surveying the damage with Jimmy Woo and Tamara there, who's kind of turned from being Takashi's secretary to his caretaker, I tell you what. But I like how Dugan's just like, all right, now that all that's over, I'm leaving the rest to you. Isn't that how it always goes in all them shows and everything? You have like FBI showing up. We're taking over. This is our jurisdiction. But it's always the county sheriff who's left cleaning up all the pieces after everything's said and done. But yeah, that's just funny. Here we catch up with the whole group telling their boss about what happened and how they think Godzilla's the one who's been disappearing all their cattle. Seeing him there, like he's been eating it up. And I would think the same thing if I was them. They don't know what's going on. But it turns out we see here that old Lefty's working with Mr. Purple Suit for a good cover-up, and they're just kind of using the Godzilla excuse to say, yeah, he's the one who's disappeared all your cattle. You don't need to look for them no more. So we get a little bit of a mystery. We know what's up, but there's a mystery set up on what's going to happen to all these ranchers here. And they're going on a big Godzilla hunt. Here's the piece of artwork we see that's actually printed on the hardcover volume of this omnibus here. It takes this portion, as we saw. So that's real fun. I dig that. And this is a great page. So very cool. It's just like, boom. A lot of great splash pages in this book. And you could argue that maybe that's filling up some space because there's not as much story, but I think that's just to draw us in and really feel the scope. Because here we're seeing real life thing, a big thing, you know, a big stampede of cattle here, and like that is a mighty force, and Godzilla's having to contend with that. But still, that's like us looking with ants coming up at our feet, you know, like they might be able to bite us and that hurt, but what are you gonna do about it? But you know what we should do? Look at those other volumes. I mean, check that out. That is so sick. And, you know, each one has their merits for why you might want to read them. But there's something really cool about having all the versions to be able to pull out and put next to each other and just take a look and scope out the differences and just appreciate the artwork and soak it all in. I tell you what, Herb Trimpe's just the best, and he just absolutely shines in this title. I love it so much. But I tell you what I love even more is actually finishing the comic. So let's get to it. I love this bit. I'm always a big fan of those close-ups of Godzilla's eyes and how they got that red tint to their blackness for this version of him. And here we see the stampede is charging off of this cliff here, and all the cattlemen gotta somehow scare the cattle towards Godzilla. Good luck with that. But these boys right here, I tell you, are so daring, and this bit is really cool. This would be absolutely fantastically awesome, but ridiculous to see in an actual film. This cowboy runs up and lassos himself onto Godzilla's tail. This panel right here, I think, is fantastic for scale and the scope of Godzilla, because we're seeing him on the tippy tip of Godzilla's tail, and he's still somewhat small, but he's tying that stick of dynamite onto him, and man, he's got to hightail it because Godzilla's about to get a flaming tail. And Godzilla's instantly gone from annoyance and indifference to being ticked off. So he's going to be running in their direction, which is great because he's not going to be scaring off the cows anymore. However, they better run for their dear life. And we get to this panel, which is fantastic. I love how Godzilla's sort of snorting smoke out of his nostrils as he's blasting out his atomic breath. So cool. However, I don't know what they're thinking charging into the house. Like they're not drawing Godzilla straight in, because sure enough, next thing we know, Godzilla's got his foot through the door. And by through the door, I mean through the house. So that didn't work out too well for them. We'll see how it turns out for them in the next issue. For me, that's just a sip of coffee and a turn of the page. But for you, you got to wait till tomorrow. So I hope to see you then for another day at Kaiju Live.